Okay, welcome to week 2 and critical issues in criminal justice. And I am going to start out by going over the materials that we have for the week. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So here's our announcement for week 2, goals in the criminal justice system. And your assignments are to read chapter 4 and the conclusion of summing up of vision, change, crime, and justice in the 21st century, our text. And then look at the sections, what's our CJ goal, and justice questions. We're going to go over that a little bit. Remind you that your discussion posts, punishment versus rehabilitation, were due on Tuesday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then your reply posts are due Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you can reply to as many reply posts as possible. I encourage you to do so. Make sure that your posts are not very brief. You have some cogent information, and that it demonstrates that you either did some research or have some information to support your statements in your reply and initial posts. Finally, your written assignment, rehabilitation versus punishment. Also, criminal justice critical issues project, where you choose your critical issues. And these both are due on Sunday by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to spend a little time discussing those as well. And then finally, reminder of my motto, adversity is a springboard to success. I elaborated on that in the open house so that you understand why that is my motto. So now let's take a look at the calendar, which I've kind of covered already, but we'll go over it nevertheless. This week, your reading assignment, again, you click on this. It tells you what you're supposed to read for the week. And then your initial posts, and then your reply posts. And then, of course, your written assignment, which is due this Sunday. And then your critical issues project. And I actually have some details in here. Conduct preliminary research and reading, and then write a paragraph in which you provide your choice of a CJ critical issue for your course project. Present your current stance on the issue, and then explain why this issue incites you and why you have passion for it. And you should have gotten this information from week 1 discussion because you had the debate of critical issues. And then make sure that you can use the same issue or a different issue. But the sooner you choose your issue or area of interest, very important, and make sure that you follow all the things. We're going to talk about that again a little bit more here. So let's get into our actual assignment. Okay, that's week 2. We can close this down. Okay, so week 2. And let's look at what the actual assignments again are. Your discussion posts, and it tells you what details that you should have in there, and then your written assignment, a 2-page report. Remember, with this 2-page report, and it tells you to follow these points, and then make sure that you have citations and references. If you do not, you will lose points. You have the information that I submitted to you that told you about things that were necessary to make sure that you don't lose points. If you go back to our course messages, you will see the rubrics that I sent you, the discussion rubric, the critical issues project, and then some examples of some of the transferable skills. So you want to make sure that you follow these things in terms of having a good report. And this right here lays it all out for you for your project. This is for your project that you do. Okay, so you want to make sure that you follow that. So this week, you will have 5 points for the paragraph on the issue, 5 points for the stance, 5 points for explaining personal and professional benefit for studying these issues, and then 5 points for providing punctuation, grammar, and of course citations and references. You will lose 5 points. So if you do all of these, you'll get 15 points and you'll automatically lose 5 points. So it's very important that you follow that. Okay. So now let's go back to week 2. And again, the assignments. Make sure, though, that if you don't conduct any research, you will lose 2 points as well. So, and you will, again, lose points for not having citations and references. So if you don't have citations and references in these assignments, you could lose 3 points. If you don't have the right number of pages, you can lose 1 point. And then, of course, if you don't do any research, you can lose 2 points. So it's another way you can end up losing 5 points. So you want to make sure that you do that, citations and references, and then the cover page. And then I've already gone over and given you the details for what's necessary in your this portion of your critical issues for week 2. So now let's go to the lesson content itself, which again outlines the different goals for criminal justice today, and you'll find that information primarily in your reading, and then in the conclusion, summing it up. And then we're going to take a few minutes right now, and we're going to go over our CJ goal and questions. I've already gone over discussion, written assignment, and the CJ project. So what's the goal of criminal justice? Is the query and question of the week. Why do we have criminal justice? And when we look at what we're talking about, are we punishing people? Are we rehabilitating people? What are we doing? What are we doing? So it says, based on your goal, you should make decisions on critical issues. So if your goal is punishment, you'll answer these questions in a different way. If your goal is rehabilitation, you'll answer, of course, a different way. Should juveniles be charged as adults? There is a question that you're going to have to determine. If you pay attention to the direction that our system is going, Juveniles are charged as adults when they commit offenses that are very heinous and very serious, and not just felonies. And as a result of that, they're charged as adults, but they're still tried in juvenile court. They're not tried in the adult court. So the question is, do we deal with, are we punishing or are we rehabilitating? Well, historically, the juvenile system has been set out to try to salvage our youth, and not in a punitive fashion, but to get them to go in a new direction as they mature and become adults. However, though, in our society for today, you and I both know that there are many young people today who are juveniles who commit some of the most serious crimes that juveniles formerly didn't commit, and that the violence, the gangs, the drugs, and all of these things are taking place on a regular basis. Robberies, thefts, but the strong arm robberies, and many of the crimes resulting in someone who is an innocent party death. And so the question is, should juveniles be charged as adults? You're going to have to deal with those issues. Should inmates be allowed to pursue a college degree? Once a person is found guilty or pled guilty, should they pursue a college degree? Well, it depends. Your answer on a punishment side would probably be no, because of the fact that why should they be rewarded with the opportunity to earn a college degree free while you have to pay when you haven't done anything wrong? On the other hand, if you're dealing with rehabilitation, you'll take the position that education is contrary to recidivism. In other words, the more educated an individual is, the more likely that they can be rehabilitated and go in a new direction. I always have the motto that knowledge is power. And that here's a question. The question that I always ask people is it more expensive to educate or to incarcerate? And I think that you'll discover, if you look at many of the studies, that in reality that it is more expensive to incarcerate than to educate. So why don't we do it? Why don't we pursue it as a opportunity given to individuals, if now, should they desire? It's not going to be like part of requirement when you go to jail, prison, to require that you do it, but the opportunity could be offered to individuals to help them to obtain GEDs or high school diplomas, and then begin to work further in college degrees. And so then the next question is, should ex-convicts be allowed to reinstate their right to vote? I personally think that if an individual has served their time and they're released, they should not lose the right to vote. You want them to be citizens. You want them to contribute to society. And so I think that just because a person commits a crime, that should not deprive them of their right to select the leaders. That, I think, is unfair. And I think that it is a form of, I think it's actually a form of cruel or unusual punishment, because of the fact that these individuals are going to have to obey the laws that are passed and enforced by the political individuals. So why shouldn't they have a right to vote? Why shouldn't it be reinstated after they are released from prison? So there's no just cause. So that's not punitive. That's very serious. Rehabilitation, well, yeah, of course. But the bottom line is that I don't think that either side should feel that ex-convicts should not be allowed and have their right to vote. Should we build more prisons? Well, I've already kind of commented about that fact. Building more prisons, First of all, number one, what is prison? Prison is a place where actually individuals are exposed to other criminals, spending time with criminals. Therefore, when they come out, they might have more knowledge about how to commit a crime or go in the direction of committing crime than they did if they spent less time in prison. And then the other issue that goes along with that is there's this question of privatizing prisons, which appears to be a pretty bad deal, because what ends up happening is that the governmental entities that enter into the deals or contracts to privatize these prisons are going to be required to produce so many individuals and deliver them to the prisons in order to meet their obligations. So what does that do? That creates situations where there's more instances where persons could end up in prison to meet those numbers. Now, somebody say that's cynical. Well, no, that's reality, because of the fact that that is what ends up happening. Plus, in the instance of these prisons, there's some questions about some constitutional rights that individuals would have because of the fact that they're privatized. Now, the argument, of course, can be made that they're agents of the government, therefore constitutional rights should still apply. But the point of the matter is building more prisons. Again, I answer it by simply saying it is cheaper to educate than to incarcerate. Should sex offenders be placed in civil commitment after completion? Now, that's a question. After sex offenders have served their time, should they have some form of civil commitment after their sentence terms? That's a question that's open for debate. Sex offenders appear to be individuals who are placed under a lot of scrutiny with the registration requirements that they're already required to have. And so is civil commitment actually an extension of their sentence? But here's the point that in order to reintegrate those individuals who are sex offenders into society, there needs to be something that takes place after their sentence, so that when they are released back into society, that they will be less likely to be repeat offenders. Oftentimes you find that those individuals have not been treated for the illness that they have for committing sex offenses, particularly when it comes to pedophiles or individuals who have committed, well, rape is a violent thing that comes about beyond dealing with pedophiles. But let's say, for example, if an individual is guilty of committing a sexual act based on the fact that they didn't know the age and they were sentenced under the statutory rape laws. Well, there needs to be some kind of education, some kind of teaching given to them in order to reintegrate them into society. And so our CJ Thought says that do treatment programs for sex offenders work? I would query. And some says that, and the note here says you would be surprised to find that they are reputed as successful. But the point of the matter is the quality of the programs that are involved to deal with sex offenders. And definitely there needs to be programs. That's what I was talking about a few minutes ago in terms of the question about civil commitment. So then we come to the question of what's our focus? What's our goal? What is it? What are we doing in our criminal justice system? Now, today we are, as correctly stated, moving more toward rehabilitation, more like ever before. So it says that like a pendulum from punishment to rehabilitation in various periods, today the focus is primarily on punishment. Well, I don't know about that. There's a debate about whether or not that's true. But the point of the matter is that though we do want to punish people, we also are beginning to recognize that if we simply just punish people without giving them something to change the direction in life, then we increase the chances of them becoming recidivists. And so as the word penitentiary meant penance, sends you to a place where you're supposed to think. Well, I already have addressed that by saying that the penitentiary is really not a place where you end up going to think. It is a place where you become educated, and oftentimes you can become educated with the wrong information and details, being exposed to inmates who are incarcerated for longer periods of times than yourself. And so you develop some bad habits. For example, let's say there are many people who we are finding out now who were wrongfully convicted and have served terms in excess of 10 years. And so what those individuals do is, though they didn't do anything wrong when they went in there, we have discovered that if you follow those people after they've been released, many of them, a large number of them, find themselves adapting to the life of becoming a criminal after they get out. So the point of the matter is that it kind of addresses the point that I said a few minutes ago, that, and I don't have any empirical data to it, I'm just going on statements of some of the reading and some of the studies that I've looked at, and then also looking at my experience as a criminal defense attorney, prosecutor, and a part-time police officer, that individuals who are taught ways of crime make it a way of life. And so what their cycle is, they commit the crimes, they get caught, they serve time, and then they're released, and then they go back to committing the crime, and then it's just a mad cycle. And then it also becomes generational. During my many years, I represented young people who became older, and then I've even represented some of their children in juvenile court, committing some of the same kind of crimes that their parents or their older relatives were guilty of. So the point of the matter is that it's quite apparent that punishment is not working so well. So it says punishment focuses more on punitive and depriving individuals, building more prisons, more stringent policies, harsher laws, emphasize punishment. Such methods make the public feel safer and more convinced that the leaders in criminal justice are being intolerant of crime. That may be true, but again, the point of the matter is that punishment alone, without some rehabilitation, is dangerous, because what happens is that even with lengthier sentences, it still only means that they're in the system longer, and they're probably learning more crime while they're in prison. So, of course, they should be taken out of society for the crime. You know, the old saying, if you commit the crime, you should do the time. But the point of the matter is that while doing that time, what are we doing to help those individuals to go in a new direction? And I am constantly an advocate for the next topic, rehabilitation, to change the behavior of those individuals. Now, there are some people who say, well, rehabilitation doesn't work. Well, of course not. It doesn't work for everybody. But I would say that my idea of rehabilitation has been demonstrated a number of times in my career. For example, I am familiar with a judge that I had cases with in our Cook County criminal court system at 26 in California, which is our main courthouse in Cook County. And room 702, Judge R. Eugene Pincham, the late R. Eugene Pincham, who was a mentor of mine, and he taught me a lot of trial techniques, taught many young attorneys trial techniques. Anyway, Judge Pincham, along with his probation officer, Reverend Harold Bailey, came up with the idea of a program called Probation Challenge. And Probation Challenge still operates and exists today. In fact, it ultimately ended up on the books in the state of Illinois. But let's revisit back to how it started. So in that courtroom, if you came before Judge Pincham and you committed a nonviolent offense, and you found yourself in a situation where it appeared that you were salvageable, and then it was discovered that you did not have a high school diploma and you don't have a GED. So what the judge would do is offer you an opportunity with the help of the pre-sentence report that was put together about that individual to give them an opportunity to obtain some education. And the condition of probation, they would give them probation as opposed to jail time on the belief, on the idea that they would agree to participate in a program to obtain their GED. And if they were to obtain their GED and they came back before the judge successfully, the cases or charges would be dismissed. Well, what we discovered is that those individuals got their GEDs, and then we partnered with the City Colleges of Chicago and one of their branches, Olive Harvey College in Chicago, to have many of those students continue their education after that and go to junior college. And many who partook of that were very successful, obtaining an education, and then some even went on to receive bachelor's degrees and other advanced degrees. So what happened is that they were so inundated in that they turned away from their criminal activity that they would have been involved. So what method are we applying here? Rehabilitation, because those individuals' behaviors are changed. So I'm a strong advocate of, that's why I said earlier when the question should inmates be allowed to pursue a college degree, the answer is yes. I believe education is one of the key factors in helping individuals. Now, there must be other factors involved, such as continuing programs. Let's say, for example, of course, if the person has a drug problem, all the education in the world is not going to change that until you actually address that sickness of them not just dealing with drugs, but being hooked on the drugs and committing crimes. There is a strong correlation between criminal activity and two things. One, individuals who are hooked on drugs or use drugs, and two, the economy and the lack of ability of individuals to obtain jobs. And lack of education can be one of the issues that could cripple the second of those two. But anyway, the fact of the matter is there must be programs that are put into place to help individuals while incarcerated to be able to get the help that's necessary. And then once these people are released, there must be some reintegration aspects where there's some support within the community of continuing these programs. And then there are, in many instances, what we call second chance programs, where individuals are given an opportunity to get jobs to help themselves so that they will be less likely to become repeat offenders. So And so they talk about it here. One of the main focuses on cognitive behavioral therapy modification, behavior modification is involved. I don't have much confidence in things like that, but I do have a lot of confidence in the substance abuse treatment and educational programs and employment programs. But the bad part about it is that, as said here, that the public will feel that the offenders are benefit from their criminal act. Well, this is the way I try to get the public to look at it. First of all, number one, those individuals who are out there, it'd be better for them to change their direction in life so that they will stop attacking people in the community. Here's my deal. I am older. I'm getting older. From when I first started as a lawyer, I was 28 years old. When I retired, I was 50. So during those periods of years, I met younger people, younger individuals, some older, but mostly younger, who were committing crimes. These individuals, as I got older, would possibly come after a person who's a senior. And so it is in my best interest, and I think the best interest of society overall, to allow those individuals to be redirected, and that overall the benefit will inure to the community because those individuals would no longer commit those offenses and would be able to be good citizens. They would also, inmates and prisoners are not taxpayers, okay? They're taken care of by the taxpayers. But educated individuals who have jobs and are working, they are citizens, they will pay taxes, and they will be contributors to society. Now, it's not an overnight process, but it's something that at least begins to point us in the direction. Now, of course, there are some individuals who are incorrigible. No matter what you do, they're just so far gone, unfortunately. But you want to try to, like I said again, help as many as possible. And there are many, many programs. One of the things, though, that's unfortunate is that in our economy right now, I've noticed that, like, for example, in Illinois, there's lack of, should I say, desire to want to fund programs that involve second chance or things like that. And that as a result of that, those individuals find themselves in limbo. And so you might start out with it, but you don't complete the process. It's just like I tell students, half a bridge is not a bridge at all because it's in fact an oxymoron. The definition of a bridge is something that allows you to cross over. Well, half of an education is educational information, but it is not successful in order to give you what you need to continue moving out of the realm that you want to. In other words, knowledge can free you from poverty. That's my whole spiel in it. So and then some say, as said here, that the public often feels that rehabilitation does not work. Well, that's because of the fact that people haven't given a chance to see the numbers. The media, unfortunately, does not focus as much on reporting the successful rehabilitation of individuals. There's more media coverage of violence that individuals commit. So the bottom line is our criminal justice system needs to be established for the good of all, the good of the inmate and the good of victims as well. And as I said again, you're going to have these people around you. They're not going to be put on an island. So therefore, you want to try to at least have them to be able to have a new direction in life once they're released. So now we're going to conclude by just going over a few of these things. The goals of criminal justice system, what brings justice, rehabilitation or punishment, and interact with these following questions. Which of the following terms is least associated with rehabilitation? Treatment, of course, that goes with rehabilitation. Restorative justice, penance. We already said penance is locking up people for a while, and retribution. Okay, which one? It's one of these four. Restorative justice or penance. Least. It's not locking people up. Retribution is associated with punishment. So some people would think retribution, but that is not. I'm going to show you why not. Okay, let's go back. I want to show you something. Go back. Okay, so is treatment, restorative justice, penance? We already know it's not. Is it retribution? Restorative justice. So which one is it? Is it retribution? Retribution. And the reason why it's retribution, just so you can, I want you to see some of the reasons why those other answers were wrong, but D is the correct answer because it is associated with punishment. Remember, the one that's least associated with retribution is one we were asking. Retribution is associated directly with punishment. Penance is sorry for the sin, and that's why people call the place the penitentiary. Today, the word penitentiary has often been replaced with prison, and the implication of the world is different. So it is, retribution is the one that is more associated with punishment than rehabilitation. Which of the following is least associated with punishment? Is revenge associated with punishment? I would certainly say so. Is retribution? We already know that. Is restorative justice or just desserts? Restorative justice is the answer. Restorative justice focuses on healing the individual, the offender, and the community. It's more of a rehabilitation. In contrast, revenge, retribution, and just desserts are associated with punishment. Just desserts means you get what's coming to you because of the time and the crime that you committed. In general, harsher laws and sentencing policies have caused the reduction of related crime rates. Have harsher laws and sentence policies caused the reduction of crime rates? No. No. Harsher laws and sentencing policies have generally resulted in increased crime rates. That's why the things that I said earlier, it supports what I said, is that you can make all the laws, but you know, the way I approach it is from the standpoint that I'm also I'm a pastor and a very spiritual person, is that unless you change the inside or the heart of an individual, you can have all the laws around. It's not the laws, it's the heart of that individual. It's what's inside that individual that's going to determine what kind of person they are. So now, so let's line these up. The idea that offenders should feel sorry for their crimes. Which one is it? The idea that offenders should feel sorry. And that's penitence, because that's the purpose of prison, penitentiary at first, but that they would feel sorry. Well, we found out that that's not working. Focuses on the healing and restoration of the offender, victim, restorative justice. And then influences or scares individuals not to commit crime. That's the deterrent effect. But we already know that that's not really happening. Okay, that's already been established. And then finally, the idea that an offender should get what's coming to them. That's your just desserts. Okay. And that's the end. That's the end of that. So I think that with everything that I've said today, that there's some things for you to consider as you go forth with your projects. And I've given you some thoughts and ideas that can help you in terms of being able to do so. I see that not many made it today, but what we're going to do is we're going to still have the lectures. I encourage you to attend. This class is not very large, and so I encourage you to make it to the live lectures. I know one of you cannot, and I already know the reason why. You already shared with me, but the others, I don't know the reasons why, and hoping that you will make it to some of these lectures so you can interact, because since our group is small, I can open up the mics and you can actually chat with me and talk with me about the things that are involved here. So with that, our next lecture is week 4, and I'm going to adjourn this session for tonight.